So recently there was a Scooby-Doo fan animation that just came out. I think it was like a Scooby-Doo X Five Nights at Freddy's crossover thing. I watched it. It's pretty interesting, especially for an indie animator to have made. I'm not a super big fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, but I am a bitch for some Scooby-Doo. And in the description of the video is this little interesting thing here. Now, for those of you who know, I'm not, really anti-AI or pro-AI. I'm of the opinion that it's a tool, and like any tool, it'll be used for good and bad things. Every time a new tool comes around, people lose their shit. Look at music DAWs, for an example. People are like, oh, it's not a real studio. You can't make real music with it. And now we have FL Studio that, is a fucking amazing piece of software and stuff like that. And animators have been using AI to do things for a long time in animations, as well as things like the 3D generated backgrounds, whatnot, that Disney, for example, used to create. Those used to get widely criticized by certain artists as, despite being expensive, people used to call it lazy and shit because it's a 3D background instead of actually being hand-drawn. I've seen people say that before, which I think is stupid. So, every time a new piece of technology comes out, people criticize it. And there's tons of examples of that. You can, find it literally everywhere. So again, I'm very much on the fence of, yeah, it can be used for some nasty shit, but it's also a really interesting tool and shouldn't necessarily be discouraged in terms of actually learning what AI can do. I myself I've used AI before. And we're going to be using AI more on stream with the whole chat GPT thing that I have, in the works with the Sandstinger AI or whatever. That's going to be streaming alongside me, essentially, which I think is going to be fucking funny. TTS Monster, shit like that, they use text-to-speech, and you can use OpenAI and plug those in and, have it read things and have it develop a quote-unquote personality, even though it's really just mimicking a personality. And people enjoy that kind of stuff. It's cool. It's really popular stream material, actually. In fact, AI voices are very popular in a lot of content mediums, like, for example, the AI president voiceover things. You've probably seen them all over YouTube. They were really popular for a month a while back. I think that's where the whole Biden blast meme comes from, actually, is from those AI, president videos. But anyways, so I guess this animator, obviously, is working by themselves. They're an indie animator. I think they're 20-something years old, so about the same age as me. And they're working on a limited budget. Which, trust me, I completely get. I work on a limited budget with literally everything I do. Every piece of artwork, everything. Which is why I posted the description at the very start of this video, so it was understood as to kind of what the video topic would be about. He essentially says, hey, I use some AI voices for this. I can't afford a bunch of voice actors. I'm working alone. So, I used AI. But he openly says it in the video. He openly says it in the video description. And I will say, on YouTube at least, the video, it's doing pretty well for itself. It's been pretty positively meant. People like it. So at least the guy has that going for him, as much as he made a bunch of people on Twitter butthurt. But the video itself is doing pretty well. And again, from what I've seen, it's actually pretty decent quality, especially for, again, a solo indie animator, which I'm going to keep stressing over and over and over again, because it's incredibly important to the context of this video. Again, as somebody myself who works on a very limited budget and often has to hire freelance artists, voice actors, so on and so forth, I understand that struggle, okay? It's not actually as cheap as people think it is, especially if you're actually trying to do something a little bit more professional. As soon as you start getting past that, 100-word mark, things get a little expensive. You can find cheap voice actors on Fiverr. I've seen some for $5 to $10, but as soon as you get things like commercial rights involved with full broadcasting rights, then it can, your $10 to $15 commission, it can become $60 to $80 very quickly. And even ignoring those, rights or whatever, well, let's say you have, 8 characters you have to get voice, and every character has 100 words. Well, that's still $40 right there. So, it's not, and that's not a lot of money to some people. To me, spending $40 on a project is okay, am I going to actually do something with this? And that's kind of a big deal for me. Maybe not everybody is actually aware as to, that's the other problem as well, is, yeah, I right now, I have a pretty decent job. I get paid a decent amount, but I got bills to pay. I got a car to take care of. I got, IRL shit that I have to do. So, it's not as easy as just, let me just throw some money at the wall and hire a bunch of voice actors. It's something that takes time. Not only that, but you have to find the right voice actor. the actual process of hiring and finding voice actors that are proper, especially for something like a Scooby-Doo cast, for example, be much harder. And, you know, to do specific impressions, some people even charge more. So, again, it just completely depends. But this guy made the video, and a bunch of people on Twitter got really, really annoyed with him. Specifically, it seems like big Hollywood voice actors, for example, and the voice actor who plays Daphne in the Velma TV show, which, by the way, if I played in that show, I would not want any fucking part of that on my record. You should be embarrassed, because that show is awful. But that show is so fucking bad. I think the only good thing about that show is there's an occasional, like, really good like, the animation of the show is at least, you know, decent. That's, like, the best part of the show, but the voice acting, story, writing, that is not really anything to write home about. I'm gonna be completely real with you. But anyways, that aside, because I just fucking hate Velma, I'm sorry, I fucking hate that show so fucking much. All of that aside, this guy did use the AI or whatever to make those voices, and a bunch of voice actors and actresses are basically like, oh, fuck this guy, you know, I'm gonna make a blacklist and send it around and make sure no voice actors ever work with you again, which is a little bit self-defeating, because if you don't want the guy to use AI, you should probably make it so that voice actors do want to work with him, and not just be like, no, I'm gonna blacklist you from the whole industry. You're a fucking idiot. If that's actually a response, that's wild, because all it's gonna do is make him use AI more. And the guy, like, a bunch of the voice actors and stuff around it were, and again, it's mostly bigger voice actors getting mad about it, are getting really, really, like, mad at this person or whatever, and even they're like, I'm redubbing the video with real voice actors eventually now, but, like, I don't really feel, like, I did this because it's a free fan project. I'm not making money off this. This is essentially a parody. Like, I'm literally just making this project. So I don't really, like, in my eyes, it's like, I don't know what these people expect from this guy. It's one animator working by himself, and it is expensive to hire voice actors. Anybody who tells you it's not expensive to hire voice actors, especially if you're hiring multiple voice actors, is fucking retarded. It is expensive, especially when you're working as a 20-something alone and you have your own bills to pay. You know, $20 to $40 might not seem like a lot of money to a lot of people, but that's, you know, food, it's groceries, you know, like, that is money. But even then, that being said, that's only for, and I'm being generous, because I actually, like, again, work with voice actors and actors all the time. The cheapest job I've ever gotten done was $15, and it was under 100 words. And that was the cheapest job I've ever gotten done. And I love the voice actor who did it, they were great, like, I don't have anything bad to say about them. But if you have 8 characters, and, you know, Scooby Gang has 5, I believe there are 7 voices he uses in the video, in total. 4 of them are AI generated. And I understand people don't like the AI voices, but, like, there's a point where you just kind of have to accept, like, this is the direction the technology is going. And there's not even necessarily bad points about it. Like, I understand that some people are not happy with, you know, people's voices being used without their consent. They feel violated or whatever. Which, again, I don't necessarily, you know, disagree with. Like, I can understand if your voice is used for some fucked up shit or whatever. The reality isn't as black and white, especially when you get into stuff like parody laws, which means that your voice can technically, yes, be used without your consent to make parody. As somebody who has had their voice edited and clipped into shit out of context, because I have somebody who follows my community around, and, like, me around, because they're just butthurt all the time. As somebody who's had it happen, you just kind of have to roll with it. Like, it just is what it is, unfortunately. I will say there are also a fair number of people on Twitter defending the guy. And again, I do think that this is more of a matter of, because again, there are some good points. Like, it is completely fair if you don't want your voice to be used in shit without your consent, I think. But at the same time, parody and whatnot exists for a reason, right? I don't understand how, if somebody does a perfect impression of somebody else's voice over an AI doing it, it's really any different. Either way, it's that person's quote-unquote voice saying the same thing. I don't understand it. It's not actually them saying it either way, it just sounds like them. So, it is an interesting direction we're going, though. The larger topic of AI as a whole is both incredibly concerning and incredibly interesting. So I guess we're just gonna have to see where things go. But yeah, this was a dumb situation. And also, just fuck Hollywood voice actors. Most of them aren't worth the fucking ground they step on. Gonna be real with you. So I don't really exactly feel bad for them. But at the same time, it's like, well, I mean, I kind of understand where they're coming from. You know, you don't want your voice used in something it shouldn't be used in something, and I do to an extent understand that. But at the same time, and this is really where my angle is leaning from, the technology's here. Pandora's box is open, okay? The monsters are out, and they're here to stay. And you gotta figure out how the fuck to live with them. Oh, and yes, before I leave, this is a very contentious subject, I'm aware. The entire topic of AI is. So, if people comment on here, be nice in the comments. But I think we can all agree that the guy didn't deserve to be essentially threatened for using a few AI voices in a fan parody. I think that most logical, reasonable people would agree with that. Anyways, this is Flip. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Got another edited upload coming out a little bit later of some gameplay of Remnant, so I'll hopefully see you guys then.
Round and round it spins, working with the darkest shadow.